How would you describe, I guess, about practice 6 now? Or just how would you describe how training has gone so far?
Feels like practice 36 because we've been going all summer, and then now it's been good. You know, we got a couple guys banged up, so that's always a challenge to navigate through that. But no, I think we're offensively. I think we're getting there in terms of understanding the style of play, the level of ball movement and pace that we want. I think guys are starting to understand that. You know, I think defensively, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we're trying to work through. Some of it is, you know, on me as the head coach and a new staff. There's some different philosophies, some different things that we're trying that we want to get film on and study. But we're trying to, you know, give the guys simplicity at the same time, so trying to kind of strike that balance. But all in all, things have been good.
Who are some of the guys that are furthest along in terms of understanding what you want to do offensively?
Yeah, you know, pretty much all the older guys, you know, which is pretty much par for the course. You know, Trevin's got a good feel for some of the shooting actions and how he can kind of be used, you know, different things there. You know, Dallin and Richie have been great. You know, I really don't have a lot of complaints as it relates to, you know, the group's ability to pick up things offensively. I do think the older guys are a bit farther along, but that was something I expected.
How close are you to kind of already identifying a starting five for this team for this year?
Not that close. Yeah. You know, still working through different things. I think one of the big, you know, differences, it sounds super obvious, but you know, in the NBA world, you know, there's 4 12-minute quarters, right? So you get in a pretty clear like subbing pattern. That was something I was really heavily involved with in the NBA world, so felt really comfortable there. Obviously, this is a totally different thing in terms of the win of the timeouts, the halves, and so forth. And so we're trying to map out what our substitution patterns will look like. Because for me, it's not just about the starting five, but it's what combinations of guys are playing, who pairs well with who, lineup combinations, and things like that. So, you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up Akash, who's our director of analytics, he did that with me for the last 2 years in Phoenix. So a lot of you know, continuity with him and I there, and it's a project that him and I are spending a lot of time on at the moment.
I don't suppose you'll tell us who's banged up, will you?
A couple guys. Nothing serious though, just a couple bumps and bruises.
So nobody that will keep him out of the
Nah.
opener. Okay.
Yeah.
How deep do you feel like this roster goes? I mean, on paper, it feels like it's a pretty versatile group, but like how many guys do you feel like if the games today could play and contribute at the high level you feel? Yeah,
I mean, I think every guy we have out there that could contribute, to be honest with you, but it's a matter of, you know, we'll whittle it down, you know, in terms of a manageable, you know, roster as it relates to subbing and guys. I'm not a fan of like guys playing super short stints. You know, I think guys need to get longer stints to get in a rhythm, and so there's only so many minutes to be had, and so, you know, it's competition. You know, it shows their competitiveness, which they've all been in camp, and you know that stuff will over time iron itself out.
What's your approach right now in the non-conference to the rotations? Do you anticipate, you know, keeping it 7 or 8, or do you see more guys playing early on in the season?
So definitely be more than 7 or 8. You know, I don't know how far that reaches. You know, we're still learning this group a lot. I mean, you know, we're trying to strike a balance of teaching and drilling, but also still needing to play a lot so we can see who's good with who. So I don't think we're even close to making any decisions at the moment as it relates to who's in and who's out.
This team last year was picked 13th in the conference, and they kind of use that as maybe a little bit of motivation. It would seem like the expectations are a little higher this year. How do you feel like they will handle that aspect of it? I mean, it's new for you too, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't mean to sound all coachy, but like I've never really understood like expectations and like what that means or doesn't mean for guys like internal motivation. You know, like if you're expected to do this, you're not going to show up and be motivated, or you are. You know, like I don't know. I'm not wired that way personally, and so I've kind of talked about it more. Big picture thing with our group is, you know, what are we trying to visualize? Like what do we want this team to be about? And more make it more about that, us establishing our identity, us trying to strive for something that all these guys want, not necessarily what the outside world expects us to do or not to do. So I don't know. It's been more about just like what we're trying to do, about us, like how we want to play and what these guys want to accomplish, and less about what we are allegedly expected to do or not to do. Honestly.
What can you tell us about Boscovich? He's just barely with the team, right? Just in the last week or so.
Yeah, great guy. First of all, fits in extremely well from a personality standpoint. Plays extremely hard, knows how to play, versatile. See him as a guy that can play multiple positions, can give us a different look as a stretch five. He's athletic, protects the rim. He's a little bit older, which is good, but he's fit in well. But to really summarize him, I just think it's a guy that knows how to play. He's a guy that knows how to play and plays really hard.
With him being older, he's 22, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a freshman, or what's his eligibility clock? How many years does he have remaining?
Yeah, to be determined.
So is that something you have to get a waiver from the NCAA? How does that get determined?
I'm learning on the fly, brother. Trust me. Yeah, but it's definitely involved. Yeah, so there's, but all jokes aside, yeah, I am learning on the fly with all this stuff.
Have you had to slow down maybe your coaching style in practice before you're teaching the highest level pros? Have you kind of had to be a little more patient, slow things down the way you coach and teach things for college guys, or are these guys picking it up pretty quick?
I think they're picking things up pretty quickly, but at the same time, a lot of my coaches who have been in college, have urged me to, assume they know nothing. Not in a negative way, but just assume they know nothing, which is very unfair because we have a lot of smart players on our team. But the pace in which you can teach is a little different here because you have so much more practice time in the NBA. You feel like you're early on in the season, you're just trying to get everything in, because you got a game in a week. You know what I mean? Everyone talks about NBA training camp. It's like 4 days. Then you start playing preseason games, and once you start playing preseason games, it's basically the season, right? And so this is not that. Obviously, it's a lot more time to practice, and so we've mapped out our practice schedule from now until the first game starts, and it's allowed us to see the pace that we need to go at. So I feel like I'm actually happy with where we are as it relates to the pace in which we're putting things in.
3 more questions. A few months ago, you talked about one of your biggest challenges was going to be finding minutes for everyone with such a talented roster. After a couple months, is that still kind of one of your biggest challenges?
I feel like this is a hot topic. I get asked that question a lot, and it's really not something that keeps me up at night. I really truly think that stuff sorts itself out. I like having a competitive group with guys who can come in with talented backgrounds and resumes and stuff. But at the end of the day, we'll see how it plays out in practice and who we feel like gives us the best chance to win and have guys stay ready in terms of injuries and all the other things, foul trouble and every other thing that can happen.
How's Elijah, just developed from this time coming pro until now?
Yeah, I think that's the game's slowing down for him a little bit. He gets sped up from time to time, which is normal for young guys. But, I think he's done a better job of late. I think the coaches have done a good job with him in terms of slowing him down and just keeping it simple. You don't have to hit a home run on every play. Just make simple plays, guard your man, and run the team. And so I think he's really sunk his teeth into that.
What's been your impression of Foose? He was one guy that just stayed with the program throughout, didn't dip into the portal or anything. But what's been your impression of him and how he fits with the vision you have of this year's team?
Yeah, and he's. I knew about Foose right before taking. I tried to educate myself watching film, but he's better than I thought. And I mean that in a complimentary way. Like, he's been really good. He can really. I didn't realize he was as skilled as he is. I think Khalifa got a lot of credit last year for being like such an amazing passer, but Foose is a really good passer in his own right. So he allows us to do some different things offensively. Alleviate some of the pressure off our guards and play through him a little bit, in that trail spot. And then he's a load down low, right? He gets it down there, he can score it. I think where I've challenged him probably the most is, I think there's a knock on him of being undersized, but he's got, a 7'3" or whatever wingspan. So I think he can do more at the rim as a rim protector, being vertical, and that's something that we've challenged him on, and I think he's accepted the challenge. he's a kind of a steadying force, I think, you know, for me, honestly, with the guy who's been not only been here but been here and has had success.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.